welcome everyone. We're so glad that you're all joining us again today. And I'm very excited to introduce our guest today, Julian DeVoe. Hi, Julian.
Hi. Hi. Hello, everyone. It's an honor to be back. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yay, super excited. So Julian is a wellness educator, body worker, detox specialist, and progressive movement teacher. I love that. He joyfully works as an advocate for well-being, thriving health, and personal transformation. I really enjoy seeing all the different ways that people are coming up with ideas of how to mix and merge different modalities and come forward with a real true expression of the heart. So Julian today is going to be talking to us about the breath of joy, and I'm super excited to hear about that. But before we dive into the breath of joy, I'd love to hear from Julian a little bit more about you, Julian. Like, what inspired you to dive into the world of breath work?
Yeah, that's a great question. And really what inspired me was and still is my emotions. And one of the main driving emotions that really brought me into a practice of self-inquiry was and still is anxiety. And it's something that for many years I would try and bat it down or push it away. This is not something that serves me. This isn't something that's good. I can't have this. And then there was a moment along the way, I'm not exactly sure, maybe 10 or 15 years ago, when it says, okay, I think this anxiety thing is here to stay for a little while. So why don't I try and learn to make friends with it? And the intersection, the connection of that was, and again still is, through breath and through breathing. So yeah, it was the not so feel good emotions that have actually inspired these well-being practices. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I always love coming back to that terminology of inspired, inspiration, spirit in. And, it's such a powerful thing to share, especially nowadays with so many people working through a lot of anxiety and looking for different tools around how to work with anxiety. So I love it when people are able to share their own personal experience from that place and really seeing how breath is such a powerful tool to be able to shift our state in that way. So thank you for sharing that, Julian.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about your breath of joy. So let's begin with asking you what your experience is with joy. Like, what is the importance of joy from your standpoint?
Yeah, so I was asked recently about what I see as one of the issues in the world, and the response that I came to was, it's like, I just don't feel like there's enough joy. And the answer was weird. It kind of confused both of us for a little bit. It wasn't like, oh, there's a physical issue or a planetary issue. It was this kind of lack of joyfulness. So what I remember and what I flash to are these moments of childhood, and the sense of watching 2 and 3 and 4 and 5-year-olds just in this state of bliss, in this state of joy, and watching how their organism functions with such harmony, the breathing and the movements and the wonder. And I live and I spend most of my time in Costa Rica, and the mentality here is pura vida, and it's pure life. And what I've started to learn from the culture is a sense of happiness, a sense of good mood, we'll call it. And when I go back to visit my family and friends in the United States, there's just a different tone. There's just a different essence in a quality of the people. And I really think that this good mood, this joyfulness, this fun, this childlike mentality is something that's innate. It's natural, and it's essential to our well-being. And it's something that we can, if we've forgotten it, we can actually practice. And I really think that we sometimes get caught up in work or relationships or our spirituality or working with community. These are all very valuable things. And when we look at what a quality of life encompasses, to me, a key component in there is a sense of fun, or a sense of joyfulness. So yeah, that's kind of the perspective that I'm coming from, is if it's not necessarily authentic, then what's the practice that we can do just to maybe smile a little bit more, maybe laugh a little bit more, these sorts of things. So yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful. I love that. And there, I mean, it's really, if you look at children, it's just so contagious, right? When you're around that energy, to be connected to the energy of joy. So for those of us that are maybe more in the Western world, is not necessarily having the access to the pura vida vibes in Costa Rica, what would you say are some of the practices that can give us access to dropping into that joy? Just things that have us connect to that joy within us.
Yeah, so I'm gonna share one with the with the breath of joy. So when that comes, you'll have one there.
Right.
There's a very basic practice that I think gets missed, and it starts with this. It can start with a simple smile. And it was Mother Teresa that once said, "Peace starts with a smile," to paraphrase her. And so just this sense of smiling. In Qigong practice, there's a practice of the inner smile. So that's a simple one, and we'll do three in total. The simple smile, and something that's crazy popular now with good reason, is a gratitude practice. And having a sense of gratitude, that sense of gratitude really drops us into the moment, just as I feel what joy and fun do. They drop us into the present moment. We have a lot of spiritual teachers out there that are sharing about, the power of the presence and being here now and these sorts of things. And it's like, wait, how do I do that? I got these bills, and I got this thing, and I have work, and how do I land in the present moment? And a simple sense of gratitude or appreciation, and that allows us to be aware of everything that we have, and to be grateful for it. And it could just be as simple as, I'm grateful that I'm embodied, that I've been born into this time. So yeah, those are. And there's one other thing I'd like to just touch on as a little bit of a tangent, and you mentioned it. You mentioned about your love and your appreciation for this idea around inspiration, or bringing spirit in, and this tickles my old Latin geeky side, which is that root being spirare, and I'm sure you've spoken about this and it will be reminded. But that spirare, that's the root of breath or respiration, is this idea of spirit. So how can we step into a sense of spirit through breathing, through this basic practice, the most fundamental practice, the most human embodied practice? We can call in a sense of spirituality. We can drop into the present moment, and then perhaps we can bring a little bit more joyfulness into our lives. So yeah, smiling, gratitude, and then we'll do the third when we get there. So
amazing. I love it. Thank you for that. So as a wellness educator, I know that one of your things is really facilitating people having more access to resiliency. I know that this is a theme that you work with a lot, and I think it's so important in this day and age to have resiliency, right? To be able to cope with all the changes, with everything that's coming at us. And I'd love to hear a little bit more about your perspective around resiliency and how we can cultivate that in these times.
the thing around resiliency is there are some key qualities, some ingredients to what resiliency, how we can look at it, and one of the first things is accepting reality for what it is, accepting our situation for what it is. And another way of saying that would be saying yes to our experience. So whether it's something, and resiliency tends to be around things that we might need to work through, or the trials in life, or the toughness. And when we say yes to our experience first, we acknowledge it, and it says, okay, this is allowed to be here. So if and when you experience things like fear or anxiety, if you live with them, if you work with them, then we can say yes to that experience first. This doesn't mean we have to like it, but it just says, okay, you're there. I can accept you. And this practice of acceptance is a very deep and old spiritual practice, the practice of acceptance. So we say yes to our experience first. And then the second key ingredient around resilience is this ingredient around finding meaning, finding purpose, finding a sense of value. Why is this happening? Why is this happening for me? What's the nugget of truth? What's the nugget of wisdom? How do I figure out what my needs are in this experience? So we accept our reality first, and then we look to something deeper, something greater. How am I co-creating this experience so I can grow, so I can learn, so I can become a better person? And then the last key ingredient, and breath kind of weaves its way into all of these. The last key ingredient is then to take action, and sometimes that action can be spontaneous. It might not be fully clear what we need to do in the moment, or we might not have our path and have our, well, if I do this, then I do this, and then the bad feelings go away, or something like that. But it's taking action. It's saying, okay, one of the other skills that I'm going to share with you is one of the other ways that I learned to cope, befriend, ally, and actually use as medicine these sensations of anxiety. And it's something about honoring and accepting ourselves for as we are, for who we are, in all our glory and all our vainglory, and all our discomfort and all our awkward moments and the embarrassing moments, and in that acceptance, finding meaning and purpose, and then taking action with it. So those I find to be the key ingredients in resiliency. We could talk more, but I think just to focus there is a good start. So.
So in terms of that acceptance, right? So my experience is, when we're able to use the breath to shift our physiology, the chemistry of our body, it allows us to sort of quiet down the mind and to be able to drop into that deeper place of stillness and awareness. So I'm curious for you, when you say the breath is weaved into all these different processes to come to that place of resilience, how would you work with the breath in terms of really being able to access that acceptance?
The key component that I see with breath, one of the most fundamental, and I shared this last year, is breathing in and out through our nose and focusing on the length of the exhalation, trying to make the exhalation longer than the inhalation, and breathing deeply into our belly. So let's try this. Let's try this right now. Just place your hands on your belly.
Okay.
And gently close your eyes and just begin breathing in and out through your nose. And feel, when you inhale, feel the outward motion of your belly. And when you exhale, feel the gentle contraction. Try and make your exhalation longer than your inhalation. Remember that ultra subtle, barely noticeable smile on your face. Allow for your shoulders to relax. And we'll do that 3 more times. In through your nose, deeply. Long, slow exhalation through your nose, completely. And we'll do one more together. Maybe that's 3, maybe that's 4, maybe that's 2. Your own cadence. Just do one more together. and you can gently allow your eyes to open and come back. So I get kind of blissed out when I really focus on that. So
Totally.
one of the things that helps me is I put my hands on my belly, and that's for several reasons. One is it's very soothing. Think of a dog that you rub its belly, and there's this kind of sort of thing. So it allows us to relax and to really balance the autonomic nervous system, that holding our belly. It also reminds us of the basic biomechanics of breath, which is that expansion when we inhale and that contraction when we exhale. And what I find to be the kind of the most fun for me is what one of my teachers reminds us that there are millions and millions and millions of deities that live in our belly. And now we know that he was off by a couple of billion, and now we have the microbiome, we have probiotics and acidophilus and all these long names that are very scientific, and he's just like millions and millions of deities. And it's like, wow, just by holding my belly, I can actually salute these organisms. And when we think about that, and when we embrace that, he's not necessarily wrong, And what if we took that perspective, just maybe just 3 breaths, or maybe it's just 2 minutes, put your hands on your belly, and remember, we have this marvelous machine. There's all this intelligence here, 70% of our immune system, if not more. The serotonin and the dopamine that gets triggered or gets released when we step into experiences of joy, most of it is made here. So we have this incredible, marvelous organism, and just by holding ourselves, we can salute the spirit, the divinity, the bacteria, the biology within, and we can calm, we can soothe, and we can remember the simple biomechanics of how to breathe. So that's a bonus breath in this experience.
Thank you, Julian.
You're welcome.
So for those of us that love to geek out on science and all the things, you've mentioned the word biomechanics a couple of times, and I'd love to hear from you, just to share with our listeners, what are the biomechanicals of foundational breathing?
Yeah, so the way I see them is one of the most fundamental things is breathing in and out through our nose. Breathing in and out through our nose, and there are many different breath works out there that have us breathing in and out through our mouth, not to confuse anyone. But I think when it comes to day-to-day living, when it comes to working, when it comes to walking, when it comes to being at a dinner table or in a conversation, to remember to breathe in and out through our nose. And there's many things that go on there that helps us balance our autonomic nervous system. It helps us to relax the limbic system, which you have the brainstem that comes up, and then the limbus. This is this Greek word for sphere or orb, and this in there sits our amygdala, which is our emotional center. So when we breathe in and out through our nose, we can actually begin to calm and center. So we have a bit of that happening. The microbiome, as we were just talking about, starts in your nose. So if you travel somewhere, what you can do is you can go outside and start breathing through your nose, and your digestion will improve because you're starting to harmonize with the land, with all of the microbiota that lives. So this is a good idea to do wherever you are. And that also begins to bring in another thing, which is smell. Smell has a deep link to memory. And what this also can do is it can allow us to calm and to settle. One of the last interesting things, and again, there's many more, and I know you have many speakers that can articulate these things probably a lot better than I can. But one of the other interesting things is when we hold our breath, or when there's a pause in the breath, something called nitric oxide builds, and it pools in your nose. And nitric oxide is antiviral, antibacterial, antifungal. So we have this natural natural immune booster that builds in our nose. So these are just a few things that go on in the nose. The belly, or it's slightly above the belly, which is the diaphragm, and this is the main muscle with breathing. And that main muscle really moves, it really moves down and forward, like down and out. So if anything is kind of going up, then we need to kind of shift that and say, okay, let me really breathe more down and forward. Again, there's more breathing into the back, etc. But that diaphragm is one of the key components to proper biomechanics around breathing. And that's something that tends to get lost or get forgotten when we're in fearful or stressful or anxious moments as teens or as adults. So I think if you were just to forget all of that and say, breathe in and out through your nose and Buddha belly, then we'll be good to go there. So yeah.
Amazing. I love that. Thank you. So as far as, so I'm hearing a lot in terms of like how to build our immune system, like strengthen our immune system, how to calm our nervous system down. What if we need a practice that's going to give us a boost of energy? What are some of your favorite ways to activate that?
Oh, Lisa, I love your questions. The breath of joy is going to give us a boost of energy. So we have that like in place. This is fantastic. Yeah. So yeah. So we'll hold off until we do that, because we're going to do it. We're going to do it together. So that's the, or is that our cue? Is that our cue?
There's no cue, but I figure now feels like a good time. We could let's do our practice. I think our listeners love to have experiences. So why don't we dive in and then we can debrief after the practice.
Fantastic. I love it. And just for kind of educational, instructional purposes, great. We're gonna do a little bit of movement before. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna lead us through that, and then we'll do the breath of joy just for a few moments, and then we'll feel the effects of the practice, and we can talk a little bit about it.
Great. Let's do it.
Please join us, and movement is such a crucial part of well-being, and this is something that I strongly encourage everybody begin to weave in through their day. We in Costa Rica, I'm blessed to live in a blue zone, and one of the things that people in blue zones do is they move naturally throughout the course of their day. They weave in movement. So if you're working at a desk, or if you sit, this practice will be something to consider, something to possibly bring in. So, and this is also, as we spoke earlier, this is something I discovered on my own, and then through my Qigong teachers, about how to manage, work with, embrace, enjoy my anxiety. So without further ado, come to standing. And what we're going to do is just unlock your knees and begin to shake. So this is a legitimate Qigong practice. And
there's nothing like a good shake.
Nothing like exactly. So what are we doing here? We are moving our lymphatic system, which needs movement. When we unlock our knees, we're partnering with gravity, which allows the femur bones to sink softly and gently into our hip sockets. So we're finding natural alignment and natural posture. When we go into more of a metaphorical mindset, or more of a mental emotional, we can shake off things. Maybe it's that tough conversation you just had, or maybe it's the scary movie you just watched, or the long travel that you experienced. So we can begin to do that. Now, drop your head to one side as if you're shaking out water out of your ear. And notice the stretch in your neck, just this natural stretch. Now roll your chin to your chest and to the opposite side. And just this gentle, beautiful neck opener. As you mentioned, Lisa, we want a cool head, cool mind, warm heart. Now roll your head back to the first side. Now we're back to that first side and extend your opposite arm. Extend your opposite arm. Yeah. And try and breathe in and out through your nose. Try and breathe deeply into your belly. We want to be cool-headed and warm-hearted. Now allow your arm to drop and go to the opposite side. That second side, extend the opposite arm. Notice the stretch in your neck.
I absolutely love that, Julian. Cool-headed, warm-hearted. Yes.
Yeah. And this is something that, you know, I like to look to the Taoist way of being. Now drop your arm and come into this standing. You're back into standing, keep shaking. Into the Taoist way of being, the heart governs the mind, and the connection or the throughway is our throat, is our neck. So if we want to make good decisions, we want to communicate them clearly, and we want to come from a heart-centered place, then we need to kind of loosen up our neck a little bit. So on this next one, inhale through your nose and your shoulders come up. So inhale your shoulders up and then release through your mouth. Inhale up. Exhale out. That's great. Let some sound out. Inhale up. And do it one more time. Inhale up. Good and beautiful. Get your hands in the game. You guys are doing great. We're almost, even though I can't see anybody, I know you're doing fantastic.
As long as you're doing it, you're doing great.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the beautiful thing, is there's no wrong way of doing this stuff. If doubt or judgment or opinion or self-worth challenges just came up, just shake them out through your hands. And I do this practice with my kiddos. So this is a little bit of Simon Says, if you will. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to follow along with your hands. So your hands out front, beautiful, up high, out to the side, out front, behind, out to the side, up above, front, side, front, up above, front, high, out to the side. All right, let that go. Fantastic. Let's do a couple more. Inhale through your nose, shoulders up. Exhale, release. As if you just had something delicious. Inhale up. And last one, inhale up. And come to stillness. Come to stillness. You're welcome to bring your hands to your belly. Just notice your breath. Notice any tingling, streaming, or pulsing. Just experience that for a moment. And if your hands are on your belly, you can release your hands. Gently allow your eyes to open. So that practice is the way many Qigong masters will start their experience, will start their Qigong experience. And it's a complete practice in and amongst itself. So as a body worker, I see many people, and this is one of the top things I recommend that people do. So if you feel stiff, if you feel stuck, if you feel like you're carrying things, if you have that stress or that anxiety or that fear or that anger or whatever it is, stand up and shake. If you are a bit self-conscious or a bit like, oh, I really want to shake, but like find a kid, find a child, and they will shake with you. It's fantastic. I'm now in a place where I do these things in public, for better, for worse. So my friends and family, yeah, they tend to go the other direction, which is great. So I get my space too. So okay. So beautiful practice, beautiful, simple shaking practice. So for our breath of joy, the breath of joy is something I learned many years ago. And I've been doing it more and more recently just because I'm in this, how do I practice more joy? How do I practice more mindfulness around being happy? just simply having a little bit of maybe even elation in our life or fun. So the breath is a 3-part inhale and in through your nose and an exhalation through your mouth. So and there are arm movements that go along. And again, you can't get this wrong. So it's a gentle inhale and the arms come up here, and then an inhale out, and then inhale up, and then exhale through the mouth. So watch again, and if you have it, go. If not, watch again. So it's inhale up, inhale out, inhale up, exhale, inhale up, inhale out, inhale up, exhale out. You can allow for some sound to come out. Inhale, 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 exhale. Exhale. Inhale, inhale out, inhale up, exhale through your mouth. If you want to cultivate more energy, you can make this movement, this breath faster. If you want to be more calm and more suave and more zen, you can make it nice and slow and graceful. That's up to you. When you exhale, you can allow for some sound to come out. Sigh as if you just had something delicious to eat. Try speeding it up just a little bit if you feel comfortable. If you need to stop, you're welcome to stop. This can generate a lot of energy. Inhale, 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 exhale. Now, inhale, inhale, exhale. Do 10 more on your own pace, your own speed. When you're done with your 10 could be 5, it could be 15. Come back to that standing position. Notice any tingling, streaming, pulsing. If you need to sit down, sit down. Sometimes this can generate a lot of energy. And allow for your eyes to open. This breath of joy is something that when I practice this breath, I actually put on Beethoven's Ode to Joy. And it's the version I have is exactly 3.5 minutes. So I do this practice 3 to 4 to 5 times a week, sometimes 3 to 4 to 5 times a day if I need a little bit more boost. And I put Beethoven's Ode to Joy on, and there's just something that happens. And it's a little bit of boost, a little bit of energy. There's also this, I don't know, the sense of vibrancy or exuberance that can come through with this breath. And I had the opportunity of sharing this with some folks a couple of weeks ago, and I saw a gentleman after class, and he said, "You know, I got that song stuck in my head now because of you." And I'm thinking to myself, man, that's a good song to have stuck in your head, though. To Joy. That's practice 4, bonus practice. But so just as a just as a reminder with any practice, particularly breath, is that sometimes they can really bring up a lot of energy. There might be fuzziness or dizziness or buzziness. So go at your own pace with these things. There's no reason to push. It can also bring up feelings or sensations or emotions. And that's okay. That's a wonderful part of the process. So sometimes with these experiences, we might need a little bit of just let me just chill before I go and interface with the world again. So Lisa, how did it go for you?
Well, two things I want to share. First of all, that was so fun. It's funny you say the thing about Beethoven, because I felt like I was, what do you call it? A conductor, a symphony conductor. I was like, da, 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 da. So I didn't even know that you usually use classical music, but that's how I stepped into it. I felt like a kid, like conducting an orchestra. That was really fun and definitely an energy booster. So thank you so much for that. And I also really appreciate your comment around sometimes breath can bring up emotion, right? And I think it's a really important thing to acknowledge, because a lot of times, even though the practice, it's called breath of joy, right? And some people might think breath of joy has to be happiness, right? But joy is actually deeper than happiness. And joy is presence. Joy is being awake. And sometimes to access that joy, we have to clear some emotion that might be in the way of that true joy. So to really honor the whole process of this work, that this joy sometimes is accessed through moving some of the emotions to actually really be a yes, like you said before, to everything that shows up as part of this process, and to really allow the wisdom of our own physiology, our own energy, to bring up whatever needs to be felt, seen, experienced to access deeper joy. So thank you for that share.
That's beautifully put. I that's fantastic. And it's something that, that when we breathe in these ways that are focused and intentful and mindful and of course experiential, that just as you said, sometimes they can go in, and all the things that aren't joy or all the things that aren't the positive stuff gets bubbled up and rattled and moved out. And something with any transformational experience, breath, movement, meditation, ceremony, whatever it might be, is that the metaphor that was shared with me many years ago is that it's as if there's a glass of water, and then there's kind of sludge or dirt on the bottom, and then when we do these things, that extra fresh, medicinal, clean, purifying water goes in, and then a lot of that gunk goes out, but then it's kind of swirling in the glass, and then it needs to resettle. So yeah, just to piggyback on what you said, it's really great, really key piece of information. So yeah.
Thank you so much. And I love how you're combining movement with breath and how to activate all of us in these practices. And, for those of you out there that are looking for new practices, Julian has like a plethora of movement practices on his website. Like there's so much richness and so much fun stuff. And you so generously share that on your website. So for those of you that are looking for more practices, definitely check out Julian's videos. But I'm wondering, Julian, if there's anything else that people, if they want to go deeper with your work or learning more from you, what would be ways that they could continue that journey?
Yeah, so the ways to continue, you anytime on my website, which is juliandevoe.com, and you can go there. You'll see a list of events, the movements that you mentioned. There's lots of blog posts. I like writing silly poetry, and there's contact information there for you to reach out to me. There, my Instagram, which again is my name, Julian DeVoe. I don't know all these handles. There's Facebook. It's just put my name in, and you should find it. I have an email address. My email address is DeVoe, D as in David, E as in Edward, V as in Victory, O as in Oscar, E as in Edward, .julian@gmail.com. You feel free to email me. And I'm happy to respond and fill you in. We got all sorts of really cool stuff from retreats to movement to coaching to all sorts of things. And I hope to have some new videos, some professionally made videos that I can share with everybody soon. So yeah, smoke signals tend to work too. Telepathic communication, I like those. Those are fun.
Julian.
So,
Thank
yeah.
you so much for your generosity. You can really feel how much you care and how excited you are to share this work. And, and just, even as I hear you say professionally filmed videos, like really, it doesn't matter, right? It's just about sharing our love and sharing our heart and inspiring people to connect to their own bodies, connect to their breath. And so thank you for just, taking a step and doing it, right? And really trusting that process. So thank you for that. It's really inspiring.
Yeah. And thank you again for having me. It's an honor and a privilege. I really appreciate your audience, everybody out there. I love you guys, even though I don't know anybody's names or faces. Like, reach out, be like, hey, this is my name, my face. I appreciate what the Shift Network does, and it warms my heart to know that I've been welcomed back this year. So thank you, really appreciate it.
Julian, and I saw another thing on your website. It looked really interesting. Sovereign by Nature. Could you tell me a little bit about that? Because I love all these experiential processes, and I think so many people are just dying to come together and have these experiences in nature. So could you tell us a little bit about that as well?
Yeah. So Sovereign by Nature is a platform in which we share experiential in-person events with Indigenous wisdom. And the Indigenous wisdom comes through different ceremonies, ranging across the board, everything from entheogenic to gentle and mild. So we have an in-person component, and the idea is to help reconnect people with nature and to awaken the felt sense that we are nature and that nature is within. And we also have online components to that as well, where we offer programming, where we share teachings from Indigenous elders. They've really been affected by the lack of in-person contact. So we share their teachings via online work, some of their healing methodologies. So yeah, it's a big, broad
amazing
concept.
That sounds amazing.
Check it out. Sovereign X Nature. Sovereign X Nature is the website. Check it out. It's all
sovereignxnature.com.
.com. Yeah.
Thank you, Julian. One last thing, as a closing statement, what's one thing you'd like to leave as a practice or a inspiration for our listeners that they can continue doing to make changes in their own life, to bring more joy into their own life?
To bring more joy into their own life. The inspiration that I would say would be to do something silly. Do something silly once a day, or once a week, or once a month, or at least once a year. And something silly. Find a kid and embrace that inner child and do something childish, something silly. Maybe it's or making a sound or something, just something that's goofy, that might be totally out of character, but out of character in a good way. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I've never heard you make those weird sounds before, those weird faces. Are you bringing a new character? Where does that character come from? It's something, do something silly. And that's just see what happens. Let me know, send me a note, see what happens.
I love that. Yes. So many of us just spend the whole time taking ourselves way too seriously. So that's a beautiful invitation. And I really invite all our listeners to do something silly right now. When you finish this call, when you finish watching this, go and do something silly with somebody in your life. Let's just spark this joy, because we can, right? We can. All we have to do is choose it. So amazing. Thank you for that reminder, Julian. And thank you so much for your time, for being open and available to share with us. And thank you to all our listeners for being a part of this summit. It's such a joy to be with all of you. So thank you all so much.